From the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Welcome back to the show. I think our next guest speaks volumes, Dr. K, about grief, about loss, and about all, that she does to help people. She's a dedicated life force coach and licensed spiritual practitioner, really passionate about helping women out there who have suffered loss, whether it's a spouse, partner, could be a job, maybe just needs to rediscover that sense of purpose. So everyone, I know you can relate to this because we've all have shared in loss. And if you haven't, you definitely will. And there's also a way that, maybe you don't know how to get out of it. Maybe you don't know how to, become yourself again and get over this. That's why we have Dr. K from Healing Our Grieving Hearts. And that's also the website, healingourgrievinghearts.com. So first and foremost, let me say welcome. How are you today?
I am great, Jill. Thank you for having me back.
Well, pleasure to have you here. She's in Sun City, Arizona. We're in New York. I got to ask, what's the temperature there in Arizona? You think Arizona, but I'm not sure if you're in the cold part or the warm part.
Well, when I got up at 4 o'clock this morning, it was 50. So
that's warm. That's the warm part. All right. You're not like in Flagstaff, like up high where it's okay.
No, but I was there on Friday and it was really chilly.
Oh, my goodness. Well, Dr. K. Fontana, again, joining us here live. Tell us a little bit about who you are, what you do, and we'll start there.
Well, great, Jill. Thank you so much. Well, as Jill mentioned, I'm K. Fontana. I'm a life force coach, grief recovery specialist, and licensed spiritual practitioner. And my passion is really helping women who have suffered a loss, particularly a spouse. Last January 2023, my husband of 40 years passed away, and it was one of the most devastating experiences that I've ever had. And he had some health issues for several years, and he, one morning I woke up and he was in a diabetic coma, and he never woke up, and he was on life support for a week, and it was absolutely the worst thing that I've ever gone through. And I've suffered many, many losses in my lifetime. But this was by far, you have a partner for 40 years and it just changes your life. And so about 6 months later, I realized I had this epiphany, and it came from a speaker at an event that really inspired me to look at, mainly gratitude and just, looking for joy and not being bitter about, the event. And, I've been a licensed spiritual practitioner and grief recovery specialist for 10 years and a life coach for about 18. And I kind of put some of that stuff aside while I was grieving. But then after that, it was like, you know what? I really need to return to what I'm passionate about so I can help other women who are going through similar circumstances to really find their purpose and passion in life, because it's so, it's such a traumatic thing, losing your spouse. It's like the other half of you. And, when they say, where's your other half or better half? Yeah, it's true. It's like you like split in two and you combine as one. And then when half of that relationship is gone, it has such a traumatic impact on your life, and you just like, well, what do I do now? I'm not a wife anymore. I'm not a partner anymore or a soulmate anymore. It's like, what do I need to do? So that's where it all came about, and how healing our grieving hearts was born.
And you are here to let people know it's okay. You're going to grieve. You're going to go through something, but you will be okay. You're living proof of that. And it's hard to hear, right? When someone passes a loved one and someone comes, oh, it'll be okay. I'll never forget this, if you don't mind me bringing up. In 2017, my mom, thank you, she passed from lung cancer, got goosebumps. So I moved in with, she moved in with me. I bought a house out close to her so she could live with me and spend her final months. And it was beautiful. As hard as it was, I would do it a million times over. It was the most beautiful thing ever. And, I had a 2-year-old and a 2-month-old when she passed, and I lived alone, so she was with me. Oh. And then it was the week before Easter, and I know before she passed, she said, please take the kids. Please go to, Peter's house. We weren't even married, but we had a kid together. Please go see his family. And even though, I know his mom doesn't like me or anything, and I was like, all right, you know what? I'm going to go, right? And I'll never forget this. I go there. Now, my kids' Easter outfits are not ironed because it was that Saturday, I guess, was the day we buried or, had the ceremony and stuff. So they were wrinkled. So the first comment when I walk in the house with my children is, oh, you didn't iron them. And I'm just like, I'm so upset to begin with. And then the criticism. And then I get, oh, yeah, sorry about your mom. Well, she's in a better place. And that just set me off. I was like, yeah, she's in a better place. Just so and people sometimes are so quick to say stuff like that, but they don't realize how it affects us. No, it's not that easy. It's not. They're in a better place and that's great. But right now I can't process that, So I need someone who's compassionate around me, someone who's understanding, someone who's not going to just brush me off and say such a quick, I don't know. It was just a dumb comment. And I think a lot of us may have gotten that. Oh, it'll be fine, right? Oh, it'll be okay. No, just, hey, I know it's not okay. And I think in the future it will be, but I know you're grieving through so much and going through. I'm here for you. That's the type of people like yourself you need to be around and surround yourself with. And a lot of the people you work with, I'm sure, don't have that, right?
Exactly. And you are so on point with that. And that's a reason why I went in that direction of the grief recovery method, because they address those things. There's 6 myths that they talk about in grief. And again, I'm so sorry about your mom. That must have been horrible having, a 2-year-old and a 2-month-old, and then having to deal with the family backlash on top of that.
Yeah.
And, it's oddly enough, it's really very common. It's common for people to say things like that. They also don't know how to express. Exactly. It's not, but we're going to take it maybe offensively at first, but people also they're feeling awkward for you. They don't know how to make you feel better. Right. So, yeah. Exactly. And they don't teach it in school. We don't learn this stuff in school. We learn all the things about, history and government, math, science, and all that stuff. But we don't learn how to react or respond to people who are grieving. And everybody, 100% of us are grieving something, whether it's, a spouse, parents, siblings, children, pets, a job, a house. Moving to another state is a type of grief. And as the Grief Recovery Institute lists, 40 plus different types of loss. Very common. And I think I mentioned last time that Russell Friedman and John W. James, their quest to find answers to grief stemmed from their own losses. And when interviewing many people, they found the 6 myths. And one is time heals all wounds, give it time, or the other one is, okay, you've been grieving for 2 months. Aren't you done now? You need to move on.
Different for everyone, right?
Yeah. Grieving alone, be strong for others. Yep. It's like, why should I be strong for others? I need to be strong for myself. And, don't feel bad and replace the loss. And they use an example of a child who, one of them, their puppy ran away or got hit by a car. I can't remember. And, grandparents are saying, or the parents were saying, don't feel bad. We'll get you another puppy on Saturday. So they're trying to replace the loss instead of understanding the
how offensive. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But so many people, will say, oh, they're in a better place. It's like, well, how do you know?
Yeah. Exactly.
So, the other one is keeping busy. You need to keep it. I got that a lot. It's like, you need to keep busy, stay busy, take your mind off of things. It's like, I'll be busy if I want to, but.
Just on edge. Oh my goodness. Yeah.
So I completely hear where you're coming from with your experience with your family. It's so Oddly enough, it's just very, very common.
Mm-hmm. So here you come in as someone who's experienced with this. And for each and every client, you really have that empathy that I have because I've had loss too. Not everybody has that empathy, right? So could you share, how you're working with them this way and the benefits of it, of course?
Well, when you have that empathy, you're really coming from a place of and another one I want to mention is, I know exactly how you feel. That is a very common one. And I see that on Facebook a lot with some of the grieving, like the grieving widows Facebook groups is like, oh, my husband just passed away a month ago. And, oh, I understand exactly how you feel. Mine passed away 2 months ago. And no one knows how anyone feels.
Yeah.
No, you can have 50 different women who have lost their spouses that have been married for 40 years, and you will not find 2 of them that are feeling the same thing.
Yeah.
There's a series of emotions that people go through when they're grieving, whether it's anger or depression. I kind of want to speak to Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who wrote on death and dying, and she was actually researching people who were on their deathbed, who were dying in hospital wards, and she came up with the 5 stages of grieving, and denial, anger, depression, bargaining. Bargaining is first, then depression, then acceptance. And those are consistent with people who are facing their own mortality, but not necessarily for those who are grieving a loss, because you might not experience anger. Yeah. You might not experience bargaining, And so coming from a place of every client is unique.
True.
And that their grief is unique to everyone. And so coming from that place of knowing that and treating them that way and understanding how other people might affect them in their grieving process, it's so important to understand that everyone is different. So just coming from, it's like almost like a blank slate. Yep. So tell me about your experience and what are you going through? And they will have their own unique stories and their own unique grief progression. And, they may waver back and forth and they may go through anger and depression and back and forth. But it's not a linear progression at all. So, grief is just so fascinating. And I think that's why I really am passionate about it, because
clearly,
not everyone grieves the same way.
And I've never heard of that woman who discovered the 5. What was her name again? I didn't get to write it down.
Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, and her book on death and dying was published in 1969.
Okay.
And so many years ago, excuse me. And then David Kessler, who is also a very well-known, respected authority on grief, he actually partnered with her for another book called On Grief and Grieving. Okay. And they explained in that book how the media had kind of misconstrued her research on death and dying and applied it to everyone, and then it's really unfair for people that are grieving a loss to think that they're supposed to go through those 5 steps, because if they're missing something, if they're not going through anger, they're going, oh my gosh, what's wrong with me? Is there something wrong with me? Should I be going through this step? But it's not for them. Yep. It's for dying patients. So they really explain that in the book On Grief and Grieving.
Beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. And I also just want to remind everyone who we're talking to, because we just keep talking, which is a good thing. But remind us how we can reach out to you personally. Thank you.
So you can reach me by going to www.healingourgrievinghearts.com. I'm also on Facebook. You can go to my Facebook page, Healing Our Grieving Hearts, or you can go to my personal profile, which is facebook.com/KAY Fontana. And that's F as in Frank, Fontana.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. All right. What else did you want to discuss for today about helping those, healing those grieving hearts and, the process of working with you? I don't know if you want to share that or, do you have any stories or client stories you want to talk about? And, you also have many other credentials. You're a Reiki master too, right? And you do the sound
and vibration healing. Oh, so, and it sounds like a very odd mixture of certifications and things, but Reiki and energy healing, like Reiki and sound and vibration healing, are very, very good for grieving people, because when we grieve, we have a tendency of our energy channels. We're all made up of energy. And when we have traumatic situations in our lives or anything, it blocks those energy channels that can affect us physically. Like we can have physical illness or depression or anxiety. And so energy healing is really a way of opening up those channels and helping us heal those, heal those imbalances in our body. Because when we have those imbalances, they manifest in other ways that are not pretty. They can manifest in cancer or, diseases or, like I said, depression, anxiety, and all those. So, I do Reiki and also vibration healing with tuning forks and drums and Himalayan bowls. And it's such a relaxing experience for people just to feel that relaxation while they're going through it. And they absolutely love it. And oddly enough, they really like the drum.
Yes.
They really like the drum. So it's really a great experience. And as for clients, I have one that lost her husband many years ago, almost 2 decades ago, and while raising children, raising 3 little boys. And it was a very devastating thing, but she focused her entire dedicated her life on raising those 3 boys, and really never had a chance to grieve, never had a chance to find her purpose or take care of herself. And because her entire focus was on her children. And, working with her, she has really opened up and realizing that she was angry for a long time. She had experienced some anger because of his loss and was kind of stuck in a rut where she didn't know what her purpose was. And now she's really rediscovering herself, and it's really exciting to see it. So I'm very happy for her.
Beautiful. And let me ask you, around the holidays, let's be honest, the holidays are upon us, and it's always the most difficult. Would you agree?
Yes.
Because this is when you're missing and you're seeing other people together and other families, and you're going shopping, and it's all the Christmas and the holiday music. It makes you feel so...
Right.
So now more than ever, people are in need.
Right. Exactly. As a matter of fact, I have a podcast that I do on Saturdays. It's just a solo podcast on Saturdays. And my last episode this last Saturday was grief during the holidays. And because, Thanksgiving is approaching. And like you said, there's so many emotions and memories that come about. And I really encourage people to, number one, is set boundaries. If going to, being invited to a family event or friends or, a Christmas party or whatever it should be.
Yep.
If deep in your heart, this is going to trigger something and I'm not comfortable, then set boundaries and say, you know what, I appreciate the offer, but this is not something that I think I can do right now.
Yep.
And another thing is also honoring your loved one and maybe, celebrating some of the things that you did together, but also find new rituals, new ceremonies, new things to, try, set up your own rituals for the future.
Yep.
Instead of being in that position of, wow, this makes me really sad. And I don't think I can do this because it brings back so many memories. Then create new memories, create some new ideas or new rituals to celebrate the holidays. And while you can still honor your loved one that, you've lost. So there's ways of getting around it. And yes, it's going to be hard no matter how you look at it. But you can shift your perspective on, okay, I'm going to create some new happy memories and, but still honor your loved one.
Aw, thank you for that. Yes, beautiful. Thank you so much. And again, with all the work that you're doing, and around the holidays, is this like your busy season? Just curious, Dr. K, is this where a lot of clients really need you to rely on you? And what is the process? Have you worked with someone where they're able to, chat with you now during a difficult time? What is the process of working with you? And, how long can you be in contact for, in a sense?
Well, people approach me a lot about, their grief. And like I said, all of us are grieving something. And so people frequently approach me and say, I've experienced a loss. I'd like to reach out to you. I do have it's called a grief breakthrough session, a free 30-minute breakthrough session. You can schedule one on my website by going to my website, and there's a link on every page where you can sign up for a 30-minute session, and it'll bring up a calendar. You can choose what time you want to meet with me, and then we'll do a Zoom call together and talk about your grief and see if we're a good fit to work together.
Perfect.
But I'm always up for, just random approaches of, I just lost my mother, or I lost my sister, or lost, a friend. Can you talk to me for a little bit? And it's like, absolutely, absolutely. I would love to talk with you.
Beautiful.
So, not every conversation is going to end up being a client, but I'm open and receptive to talking to anybody.
Perfect. And you're part of, it's the Grief Recovery Institute, right?
Yes.
This is the thing. If you've never heard of this, there's a lot of qualified people out there that can help you with this and give you that support, because
absolutely,
it's like not until you lose, well, at least in my situation, my mom, I never even knew this stuff existed. And then there, a lot of the patient advocates from the hospitals are reaching out to me about my mom, and there's all these, and I had no idea, this is a real thing, but then, you got to get back to work. You have to be it's like, oh my, but you're going through so much. So
exactly.
And you also do keynote speaking as well, right?
I can. I haven't in a while, but I can. Absolutely. Okay. I would love to.
And
I would love to. And I want to mention, you said that, that you were not aware of all these things available. And this is something that, John W. James and Russell Friedman did their research back in the late 70s.
Okay.
And I can't remember the exact year that their book, the Grief Recovery Handbook, was written. But it's probably approaching 40 years.
Wow.
And, back when growing up, when going back way far, when I was 9 years old, my 17-year-old brother, a week after he turned 17, he died of cancer. And which back then, not only was cancer particularly, cancer in general was not very common, but cancer in young adults was not, or children was not very common either. Mm-hmm. And there were absolutely no cancer treatment centers in Arizona. My parents had to drive my brother to California every week for treatments. But then going back to the grief that they experienced, there was nothing for them. And so my parents had to do this on their own. And it's amazing that they lived through it, because it was the worst thing that they had ever been through.
Oh, gosh.
But, I'm so grateful for the Institute, because it really, excuse me, grief healing is becoming very, very common now.
Yep. Yep. Well, that's a good thing. And you have, multiple different programs, right? Again, Life Force coaching. You offer that complimentary grief breakthrough session.
Yes.
And also there's a few different type of coaching options. So I guess when you speak to someone, that's kind of where you would find out what would fit best for them, right?
Exactly. Whether it's going through if it's an individual going through a 7-week grief recovery program. Mm-hmm. I also do pet loss as well.
Oh, that's a real thing. Oh gosh, lost my cat 2 years ago. My kids were they were like 5 and 7, but devastating.
Oh my gosh,
devastating.
It is. Pets are devastating. And so whether it's going through that program, the grief recovery program, or spending some time on coaching.
Great.
Coaching through that and different aspects of Life Force coaching.
Oh, my goodness. Well, how did you kind of want to sum up for today? We are just about out of time. I know you're coughing. I can keep talking if you need me to wrap it up for you. I don't. I get it. I'm like, I
sometimes have a tickle in my throat.
It happens.
I don't know what's going on. I'm
all
so
good.
sorry.
All good. Don't be sorry.
So I just encourage people to reach out.
Yep. All right.
Reach out and, whether it's me or someone else, that if you're grieving, a lot of times when people throw things at you like, they're in a better place, or, you need to be strong for others, or time heals all wounds, or, you've been grieving for a long time and it's time for you to move on.
Yeah.
If you experience that and, that kind of makes people want to just retreat and not talk to anybody, because they never know how people are going to respond. So whether it's me or anyone else, I really encourage you to reach out to somebody and address that, because the longer that you stuff that away, the harder it is to get through it. And, grief is cumulative over time. So if you're grieving something now, you've probably been grieving something in the past, and that too has probably been stuffed in your little backpack.
Exactly.
And or brushed under the rug. So I just encourage people to really reach out and talk to somebody, a professional, about your grief so that you can move forward.
All right. Thank you. And to contact you, the best way would be the website?
Yes. My website at www.healingourgrievinghearts.com. You can also email me at k@healingourgrievinghearts.com.
Perfect.
Or you can go to my Facebook page.
Beautiful. Thank you so much. I hope you have a fantastic day. And
thank you, Jill. I appreciate it.
No problem. Thank you so much for today. Bye-bye.
Okay. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Broadcasting from the business capital of the world, this is the Podcast Business News Network.
Hey, what's up, everybody? I'm Jason Derulo. I love that music connects to people all over the country. But unfortunately, so does something else. Childhood hunger. 15 million kids struggle with hunger right here in America. And yet, every year, billions of pounds of surplus food in the U.S. go to waste instead of going to the children in need. Feeding America is working to change this. The Feeding America nationwide network of food banks rescues this surplus of food to help provide meals to families in virtually every community in the United States, including yours. But they just can't do this alone. Join me in the fight against hunger in America. For more information on what you can do to get involved, visit feedingamerica.org. That's feedingamerica.org. Together we can solve hunger. Together, we're Feeding America. A message from Feeding America and the Ad Council.